Hello, hello, hello. Mm, mm. I think we're using this opportunity to wait for the attendees to get in. When we get to the mark of 50, then I can begin. Okay. Yeah. Good morning and good afternoon, wherever we are joining in from. My name is Adibawale, and I told you I'm the Senior Learning Experience Designer. I welcome every one of us again to this beautiful year and the beginning of our new webinar series for 2024. And I'm happy that you could make it and also join us to experience and also have another uh, talk together on the initiatives and the support for internet in Africa. So I will begin by saying good afternoon, also good morning from wherever you're joining from, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to welcome you to our first webinar in 2024, and also this series of webinar offer our community an opportunity to engage and dialogue on the current future landscape of internet development, accessibility, and robustness in Africa. In this subsequent webinars, we will see subject matter experts from around the continent engage on various topics that stimulate the growth and development of internet in Africa. Before we begin, I would like us to chat in the chat section. So if you can hear me and where you are joining us from, if you just indicate on the chat section to tell us where you're joining from. Oh, thank you very much, Godswick Kubi from Ghana. I can see Danny from Paris. Oh, Khan from South Africa, Chidin from Lagos, and Riyadh from Yemen, Antonio from Mozambique. Awesome. I see a lot of guys joining from the continent. Really appreciate that. Okay, that's excellent. Okay, Yaidia from DR Congo, Nicholas from Kenya, and that's just keep it rolling. Just type in where you're joining us from, your name and your location as well. We appreciate that. Morning from Cameroon, yeah. From Paris also, excellent. Yeah, so without further ado, let me quickly dive in by introducing myself once again. My name is Adibowale. I'm the Senior Learning Experience Designer for AFRINIC, and I'll be the moderator for today's session, our first series of webinar in 2024. On some of the house rules, I appreciate if you can familiarize ourselves with the Zoom application set we are using. However, it won't harm to point out some key features of the platform. And number one is the user interface. All controls are actually at the bottom. If you look at the bottom, you can see your mute button, the share screen, and also some of the question and answer and the chats. It's accessible to every one of us there. And also you can actually see the raise hand icon, the poll, and the live transcription button below. All delegates are muted. However, you can share your comments in the chat and Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. For any questions relating to this session, that means you use the Q&A option to ask your questions. I would appreciate if you use that particular feature, not the chats. So that we can aggregate all the questions together and I'll be able to answer our concerns. For any other issues relating to the Zoom platform, like your connectivity or any other, please use this chat section and the team member will assist you. This current webinar is in English, and we will have the same webinar in French for our Francophone colleagues. That will be next week, Thursday, 22nd of February. The registrations are available on the AFRINIC website, to which link has been shared in the chat. I believe, so Susan just shared the link for the webinar series now in the chat, so you can actually check on that part. So for the subsequent colleagues can actually, so we can see all the whole calendar from the link Susan just shared in the chat. This session is recorded and simultaneously transmitted on the YouTube, on the AFRINIC YouTube page. And finally, this meeting shall abide by the AFRINIC Code of Conduct, and the event terms and conditions are all available on the AFRINIC website. I will encourage us to take our time to read the terms and conditions. I would like to introduce a couple of my panelists today who are going to take us through the whole webinar for today. We'll start by the lady who is in our midst, Madhvi. So Madhvi is our senior IP specialist. Do you like to say hello to our attendees? Do you mind?
Hi,
Madhvi. Yeah.
hi everybody. Madhvi from AFRINIC here. Welcome to the webinar.
Fantastic. So the gentleman right beside Madhvi, his name is James Chewa. He's the head of member services. James, would you like to say hello to our attendees?
Good day, everyone, and welcome to this webinar session. We are happy to have you, and we are looking forward to a good session this afternoon. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope so too. Also, I would like to introduce our gentleman. He's not right here in our midst. It's far away somewhere in Senegal. His name is Mr. Cedric. Mr. Cedric, you would like to say hello to our attendees today?
Yes, good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be here and to share about AFRINIC Services. Thank you, and back to you, Debo.
Fantastic. So I would like to just do a brief introduction about Madhvi. Madhvi she's currently the senior IP resource specialist in AFRINIC, and she has held several roles in managing notable senior IP analysts in registration services and also formerly in the member services department. And now she holds the position of senior IP resource specialist, and as part of her duty, she has been involved in interactions with African internet community on matters of policy development and onboarding organizations to get their internet number resources, and also adopt services offered by AFRINIC. She also acts as our policy liaison and provided support for the smooth execution of various stages of the policy development process by all our stakeholders. And yes, good. Yeah, and also I would like to just give a brief introduction to Mr. James. James is currently, as I mentioned, is currently the head of member services in AFRINIC, and he plays a special role in overseeing the registry operations and ensuring the robust service delivery functions. And also he has experience which also span into networking, IT services, and also risk management. And also Mr. Chiwa has actually built a commendable record that brings a wealth knowledge to our registry operations at AFRINIC, contributing significantly to shaping the future of AFRINIC and its positive impact on the internet. And lastly, Mr. Cedric is deployment operationalization officer. He also played one of the important role when he started off as the system engineer and also advanced to become the senior system engineer, and later he now to move into infrastructure unit as the manager. Then in 2021, he had to transition. We have opportunity just to keep growing. Then he has to transition into to become the stakeholder development manager, which his main focus is just on the technical part. Today, he will be taking us through some of the services he actually managed and go. Without any further ado, once again, I would like to begin with Mr. James. So Mr. James will talk us through on what he wants to present with us today. So James, you have the floor, please.
Thanks, Adeboale. And once again, welcome to the session. In my brief talk today, I'll basically talk mostly on the registry services, I'll give you a brief on the evolution of how our service portfolio has changed over the years. Since our inception in 2005, we've had a number of new services that we've added to our portfolio, with the main focus of enhancing the internet infrastructure in the region. The last of our key deployment was in 2019, which was the RDAP service, Registration Data Access Protocol. I'll talk more as we proceed. AFRINIC as a regional internet registry, our core function revolves around management of IP number resources. In IP number resource management, we're looking at registration of the allocated and assigned IP resources. In addition to that, we also provide the host service, which can be queried and will provide certain specific information. Let's take, for instance, today, at a time when we are all hearing about the digital transformation that is taking place. There are a lot of things that are driving digital transformation. Speaking of things like cloud services, we speak of things like 5G. All these are the drivers for digital transformation, but in reality, behind those particular services or solutions, you find that IP addresses remain a fundamental requirement in order for those services to operate. So our core function is to make sure that the internet infrastructure can be able to support those new technologies, both old and new technologies that come up. Now, the host database can provide critical information when it comes to trying to do certain things. For example, if you want to just know who is using a certain range of IP addresses, if you are maybe trying to assess different network operators and you would like to know if they really own or if they really have the authority to use those particular set of IP addresses, you can always make use of the host database. Other aspects would be things like network troubleshooting. If you are having a problem and you want to see maybe where the problem is within the path of your traffic, you will be able to know who at the maybe last point where your traffic can reach. You can easily know which operator that is through information that we keep in that host database. Cybersecurity, or that aspect, you can easily use the data that we keep in the host as part of our function in terms of registration of those IP number resources. The host itself also provide a mechanism for our resource members, those whom we have given these resources, to be able to manage those resources. There are certain particular functions that they can do to enhance their own operations. So to interact with the host provide the platform, the interface for interaction and be able to manage those particular resources. Now, the host also is an open, publicly accessible database whereby anybody can easily query for information and be able to get it and make necessary decisions as you may be looking at. So it does play a key role in our operation as far as management of number resources is involved. So the host database can be accessed in different ways. We have different mechanisms where one can interact with our host. The first one is we have a command line client, which you can easily download from the website. As you can see the link on top of my screen there. You can download that and you can be able to install it, whether it's on your Linux system. We also have a Windows version, and you'll be able to interact with our host and get appropriate feedback. The second approach is the registration data access protocol, which is an alternative to the direct whois mechanism. RDAP uses HTTP-based REST-style protocol, and it has advantages over the normal whois that uses port 43. With RDAP, you can get standardized responses practically in XML or JSON format. The other mechanisms we have for interacting with the whois is the email mechanism, where you can send an email to a particular email address, as you can see, and then you'll be able to make certain updates. This is more critical when it comes to making back updates to your records. Similarly, also, the web client can also accord you to make back updates, but also the web client also provide the query functions as well. The last option is the MyAfrinic portal, which is actually open only to resource members. So these are those whom we have dedicated IP number resources to. They can be able to, they are able to log in, and they have the easier way to manage their resources. But in addition to just managing the resources as a member, they also have various other functions that they can undertake within the MyAfrinic platform. Through our function as the registry, this is how far we've come. Our pool of IP addresses in terms of IPv4, we have about 121 million. At the moment, we are remaining with only 1.1 million in our available pool. You can see the distribution according to the region on my screen. To become a member and be able to access these resources, there are certain specific conditions that one has to meet, and these conditions are provided through the policies. There's the registration service agreement, and also our bylaws, the AFRINIC constituents. So I'll move on now to talk about the next service that we provide, which is the routing registry. A routing registry is simply a collection of policy information, routing policy information that can be used in terms of enhancing your routing platform. You can create, you can use them for different purposes. What a route object simply does, it associates the IP prefixes and the ASN that announces it, or will announce it in BGP. So some of the benefits to all operators, whether you are a resource member or not, but you're a network operator, you can use through this routing registry, you can be able to improve your route filtering, because you can create, or you can automatically create filters with the help of routing registry. So your filters, there are tools that can help you do that, like BGP Q4, IR2 set, etc. In addition, you can also use this routing registry for network troubleshooting. In the end, you attain improved routing in your infrastructure. There are also benefits that are specific to our members who enroll for Internet Routing Registry. When you have resources with us, you have access to MyAfrinic, you can be able to create your route objects in there. That is now enhancing the guarantee that your traffic is unlikely to be filtered by others. You can also it also provides MyAfrinic provides you with a graphical user interface that makes it easier for you to create or manage your routing registry. The other benefit is that you don't need to pay any extra. There's no extra cost for you to access this particular service. Interaction with routing registry can also be in those three ways, through the portal, MyAfrinic, as I was just saying earlier, but also through our whois web interface. You can simply be able to interact with with our routing registry. Similarly, for using the email approach, you can be able to manage your route or routing registry information. The next service is the RPKI service, which stands for Resource Public Key Infrastructure. RPKI uses the Public Key Infrastructure Framework to secure internet routes using X.509 certificates. AFRINIC runs its own CA to provide those certificates. CA is simply a certificate authority. Now, RPKI mitigates the effect of IP route hijacks and prefix leaks on the internet. If you adopt this particular service, you are actually enhancing the performance of the global internet routing by ensuring that only valid or authorized users of specific IP addresses are the ones actually populating the specific routes into the internet, but at the same time also preventing unintentional announcements that can be made through different reasons. In RPKI, we have two key operations. One is the resource certification, where as a resource holder, you can certify your resource announcement. You associate your autonomous system number to a set of IP resources. From that, anybody who picks up that certified route origin authority would trust that particular traffic of yours. AFRINIC, in that operation of resource certification, once you've done that, we publish that information in a repository of signed statements, but also in addition, we also populate a repository of those authorizations that have been revoked, called the certificate revocation list. Once we've published that repository, there are other softwares, third-party softwares, that we call validators or relying parties. These ones pull the information from our repository, and then they can be distributed across the globe even from your own network. You can build one. The goodness of this approach is they can be as close as possible to your infrastructure. And then that's when it connects to the second part of the process, route validation, where your routers now need to know the information to trust. And this is where your routers will need to talk to these relying parties or validators to sync and get the validated data. Once you have it in your router, the validated data helps you make the appropriate decision based on this source of information. So this is about the RPKI system. Members can be able to, in RPKI itself, it has 3 key states when making a decision for the route. A route can be tagged as either valid, invalid, or unknown, depending on what the validated list holds. Now, for instance, if the validated list matches the route that a router is receiving, that particular route will be accepted as valid. Meanwhile, if the repository has a route origin authorization that is different from a particular route that it is receiving, that route will be considered invalid and it will not be accepted. There are unknown scenarios where the route is received and there is no route origin authorization, and then it's considered unknown. In most of the cases, most operators at this stage still accept that kind of that traffic that is categorized as unknown. At AFRINIC, for you to be able to, once you're a member and you want to enroll for RPKI and create your route origin authorizations, you need to properly go through a KYC where you identify yourself because of the criticality of this particular service. If not properly handled, it may have significant impact on your network infrastructure. So there is due care that has to be taken both on our side and also on member side whenever they are creating the ROAs as well as configuring their routers. The second part is this, we also use a second factor authentication for somebody to be able to access this to ensure that there is high level of security and we avoid any unwarranted issues that may happen and compromise the operations of the networks out there. We also encourage that the adopters have a clear understanding of their routing policy before they can create the ROAs. Creating ROAs is done on my AFRINIC, and those are the simple steps. On the other side, I've just listed a few validation to the relying party softwares that you can use and install on your side to undertake the validation process. The next service that we provide is reverse DNS, which is an integral part for the internet infrastructure. Simply saying, in our operations as the registry for numbers, we also have to provide a mechanism where we can establish a relationship between those numbers and specific domains or host names. So this is where we come in. Our infrastructure helps those, especially in terms of email servers, SPF, network troubleshooting, certain firewall configuration or access control policies. Reverse DNS comes in handy if you want to filter unwarranted traffic that is coming to your network. There are certain prerequisites that you may need before you can register your reverse DNS with us. Most important is the name servers. You need to have name servers configured for your side. We recommend that you have at least 2 DNS name servers where you can now host your zone files in there. These name servers have to be, of course, reachable on port 53 from outside so that there's possibility for querying as well as secondary data transfer. PTR records.
Okay, James, I would like to step in here. Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you very much for your time. There are a couple of questions that I would like to ask you regarding, because you mentioned something like IRR and RPKI. How do these services offered by all RIRs integrate to guarantee seamless connectivity across the international borders? If I would like to repeat the question again. So I said the IRR and the RPKI, these are services offered by all the RIRs. Is there a way that it's being integrated to guarantee seamless connectivity across international borders?
Exactly. Yes, that is true. I'll start with IRR. IRR is being integrated though by third parties who actually collect information from all the 5 RRs, and they can consolidate them within a single platform where operators now can easily register and they'll be able to. There are some challenges with IRR because there is a minimal level of validation, which may introduce redundancies. The other thing is for internet routing registry, it's not only the IRRs that are operating, there are also other independent or private internet routing registries. So there hasn't been a seamless integration in terms of making sure that redundancies or overlaps are controlled. But otherwise, most of the information as put together from RIRs everything is consolidated by third parties at most. So RIRs simply run the registries, and then different operators can consolidate them in different ways. But also in addition, there's also additional internet routing registries out there. Their information equally becomes important. Okay,
thank you very much for that. I would like to pick there are some couple of questions that in the chat. One is in the chat and one is in the Q&A. One from Riyadh. Riyadh said, what's the difference between the AFRINIC and RIPE services? regardless of the coverage location for both. So let me take the question. Okay.
First and foremost, I think the key point to make is as much as we are both RIRs serving different regions, we also run on different, what I would say, policies that drives how our operations are run. For instance, RIPE NCC has their own policy development process, which comes up with their own set of policies that drive how they undertake their registry operations and certain other aspects. Similarly, for us, we also have our structure in terms of the policy development. So things or different policies may be developed in different regions. That is one of the areas that may bring differences, because we may have a different policy that is not the same as ones in RIPE. So that is key element that we have in this aspect. Secondly, as much as we may have the core aspect of internet number resource management on all our sides, but operating in different environments also may introduce different minor differences. However, there are key services that we all offer, mostly the ones I'm talking here, because these are key and critical to the core registry function and to the fortification of the global internet infrastructure.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me take the last question for you from Jack Otieno. He said, what's the difference between the RPKI services and BGBsec? If you could just quickly wrap it, just like within a minute.
Well, I have to be honest on that. I can't draw a specific difference from an expert point of view, because I really haven't delved much so far into BGBsec. But I can open it to my colleagues on the panel in case somebody may want to chip in.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I mentioned something like policy earlier on, and we have an expert here. That's Madvi, she's going to take us through the whole policy topic and how it's going to be implemented. So, Madvi, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Debo. I'm going to share my screen. Testing audio. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. So when we talk, good afternoon to all our attendees. It's a pleasure having you for the first webinar of this year. And so while we're talking, the topic today is about AFRINIC Services and the initiatives to support internet in Africa. So you've heard from James, and he's been talking about the services. But we all know that the internet works based on internet number resources, okay? And AFRINIC exists for a particular reason. It's the regional internet registry, and it manages the pool of resources that you as operators out there or as users connecting to the internet, you need those resources. Your upstream provider needs those resources, okay? So what we have, you also heard James talking about resource policies or the policy development process. We're here to talk to you about it because there are some specificities in regard to how resources are managed in the AFRINIC service region. In fact, each region, so the word has been broken down in 5 regions. So each region has their own policy development process and the resource policies, but there's one common one common characteristic is that those RIRs and AFRINIC as well, we do not think about how these resources will be managed by ourselves, okay? There's a particular process which we call the policy development process. So we'll talk about it more in the future, in the upcoming slides. So I'll just go down a bit back to 2001 when the ICP2 document, it's in fact the Internet Coordination Policy 2 document, was drafted and submitted to ICANN. And it had some criteria for the establishment of new regional Internet registries. AFRINIC was not set up at that time, okay? And the continent, the operators on the continent had to go to the other RIRs for their resources. So in that ICP2 document, there is one criteria regarding the bottom-up self-governance structure for setting local policies. Local policies here mean policies that serve the African continent that will be used by the RIR for the African continent. Here is AFRINIC. And that the procedure there would be a procedure, okay, to develop the resource management policies. Those procedures will be open and transparent, as well as accessible to all interested parties, that there would be fair representation of all the constituencies within the region, and that the RIR will actually hold an annual public development meeting and also keep archives of the policy discussions. So in 2004, 2005, the period where AFRINIC was being set up, AFRINIC could comply, okay, with this criteria, because in the first AFRINIC meeting, a set of policies, as well as the policy development process was shared, was discussed, was drafted, discussed with the AFRINIC community, and where they agreed that they on the transition policy development process, as well as a set of resource policies. And since then, AFRINIC continued to have that policy development process. There have been updates. So the AFRINIC community, okay, I will keep on saying, using these words, you'll hear it very often in the future slides as well. The AFRINIC community decided that the policy development process will be a policy on its own, meaning that it will follow a certain steps, in regard to evolution. So there have been a couple of updates to the policy development process. And the current one is documented in what we call our consolidated policy manual. And the last time it was updated was 2010, and we implemented it in 2010 itself, all right? So the policy development process follows the bottom-up principle. Like I said, we don't, James in member services will not come up with today the rules are going to change and this is how we'll attribute the resources. Doesn't go like that, all right? And the policies usually, they follow the policy development process. Any amendments require the consensus within the community, okay, before they are sent to the board for ratification. They can only be implemented by staff once the board has ratified the policies. There are some key steps. I've skipped out the timelines. So usually there would be a proposal based on a particular problem, okay? That problem could be experienced by one operator, a group of operators. They could discuss Okay, they could discuss it. There is a mailing list that we provide for the policy discussions. It can be discussed as an idea first, and then based on that, you have a problem statement, or there could be a list of problem statements already identified that a proposal is based upon that. Now, who would do that? It's usually individuals, from the AFRINIC community. It's some people, one or more people will collaborate, okay, and write the policy proposal, starting with a problem statement and identifying how that particular problem can be solved, okay, policy-wise. Then there would be discussion. Okay, the discussion happens between the community. So we use the Policy Development Working Group and AFRINIC community interchangeably here. And then when the next step would be a consensus determination. Since we use mailing list for discussions, so there would be an indication from the mailing list discussions as to whether there is a consensus within the community members on the list. But the policy proposals are also discussed. They have to be discussed, in fact, at a public policy meeting where there are two PDWG chairs. These chairs are selected by the community as well, and they are volunteers. So they will gauge whether there is consensus within the community on the mailing list, identify the valid objections that may not have been responded to or by the authors, and put them forward in the public policy meeting for further discussions. And at the end of that discussion in the public policy meeting, the co-chairs will declare, will verify whether there is rough consensus or not. In case of no consensus, then those policy proposals get sent back to the list for further discussion, okay, and refinements. But in case there's consensus, at the end of, there's a period of last call of about 2 weeks. And then at the end of that period, the co-chairs send a report to the AFRINIC Board of Directors recommending that those proposals be ratified. And once the board has ratified the proposal, the policy proposal is sent to AFRINIC staff for implementation. So implementation happens in several areas. It can happen in the processes, our business processes. It can happen on the systems. It may require additional coding for some additional feature. So there are various areas where the implementation can happen. Once the policy has been implemented, then it is incorporated in the policy manual, all right? Who does that? It's usually AFRINIC staff who would put it in the policy manual. And then that's when the policy can now be announced as implemented, and the member services team can start enforcing or ensuring that the policies are now complied with. Right. So talking about policies, what exactly is a policy? I did say that the policy development process is a policy on its own, but the rest of the policies that we talk about are internet number resource policies. Okay, so they are guidelines, okay, that AFRINIC uses for resource management. For example, looking at the list of attendees here, if you are a resource member, you may have been informed that, oh, the maximum IPv4 that you can get, size that you can get is a /22, Where that comes from, it comes from the Consolidated Policy Manual. It comes from a policy that says that AFRINIC, at the moment, right, the maximum prefix that AFRINIC can give is /22 for IPv4, or the minimum for IPv6 if you're an ISP is a /32. So these are the elements, these are the guidelines that come from resource policies. James spoke about reverse DNS. There is a policy around, there are two policies around reverse DNS, if I remember correctly. The latest reverse DNS, no, there are three, sorry. So the latest is regarding the lame delegations. So AFRINIC takes out the lame delegations from its WHOIS database. Why does it do that now? That's because of a policy that the community came up, reached consensus on, and was ratified by the board, and we implemented it. So these resource policies, I repeat, are developed by the AFRINIC Internet community, okay? And they developed through the AFRINIC policy development process. And as James also said, the AFRINIC policy development process may differ, perhaps in certain steps within the RIRs, but if you are an operator in an AFRINIC service region, the AFRINIC resource policy, and you're getting resources from AFRINIC, the source of reference would be the AFRINIC policies, okay? Next slide. So yeah, so when are these resource policies applicable? Okay, it can apply before at the time that an organization is planning to obtain the public IP resources. It could be a new ISP that has been set up, a community network, a university who wants their own IP resources. So they will have to comply with the policies, but also after they've become resource members, the policies will also apply to them. There are certain areas where they have to comply with, and that compliance is also monitored by AFRINIC, sometimes on the systems, because you will receive notifications. If you're a resource member and you're wondering why you're receiving a notification about a lame delegation, that's because of a policy and it was implemented on the system. So you will receive notifications to request you, for example, to ensure compliance, because failing that, you may just see and not see your reverse DNS on the WHOIS database at some point in time. Yeah, so all the implemented resource policies are consolidated in one document, which we call the CPM, the AFRINIC Consolidated Policy Manual. I've put up the link here. It's available on our website. And there is a change history in there as well, so that you can track what are the latest additions to the manual. So it usually would come from the policies that get ratified and implemented after each public policy meeting. And of course, the sections, some sections of the policy manual would evolve to adapt to new situations or policy proposals. So the Policy Development Working Group, which we call the AFRINIC community, they can author a policy proposal. We have a very small list of authors, I would say, and we would love to see more authors from the community in future. The Policy Development Working Group will also discuss policy proposals. They may agree, they may talk about the merits, disadvantages, or even propose enhancements to the policy proposals. They will discuss online, which will require an email address and a mailing list subscription, sorry. In-person discussions usually will happen during public policy meetings. And usually these individuals, they can either contribute in their own name, or also we recommend that we have more resource members who participate in the policy development process, because like I said, the policies affect resource members, potential ones or existing ones. So it's we encourage our resource members to be part of the policy development working group, to play a more to be more involved in the policy development process. So you can participate. How you can form part of the AFRINIC community? You register on, you subscribe to our mailing list, the Resource Policy Discussion mailing list. The archives go way back to 2005. You can check the policy proposals that are of actuality. None at the moment, unfortunately. But if you're on the mailing list and someone comes up with a problem statement, then you can discuss, all right? You can contribute, okay? There are some guidelines to participate in the discussions. You need to also follow the Code of Conduct, the AFRINIC Code of Conduct during the discussions. But usually the guidelines for discussions would be, you know, do you see any merit? Do you support the proposal? If you object, kindly state the reasons why you object to the proposals, so that the authors also get an idea of, you know, what's the feel in the community. Some authors refine the draft of the policy proposals based on the comments that they receive, okay? So you can share situations, provide as well, you know, if there's one problem and you have experienced the same issue, then you voice out, okay? All right, so, and then what we also have is what we call the Policy Implementation Experience Report. These are usually delivered by AFRINIC staff. Someone from AFRINIC Member Services will deliver that report during the AFRINIC public policy meetings. We have some of these on the website at the moment, but also thinking of perhaps condensing them into a list of issues, because sometimes they repeat year on year or PPM over PPM. So we're looking towards having that. So what is the Policy Implementation Experience Report? It's actually these are the experience faced by the host masters while handling the request governed by the currently implemented policies, okay? They can also contain the sections of the CPM that are ambiguous or lacking clarity. Why this is done is so that based on these issues, okay, if there's these can be used as a scope for improvement on the CPM. So the community may decide to discuss these issues and come up with policy proposals. And of course, these policy proposals go through the policy development process. If there is consensus within the community around the new amendments that are being proposed, then that proposal will follow the step, and the next step, which would be ratification before it's implemented. Okay, I've reached the end of my slides, so we can take questions now, or I can still take questions at the end of the session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Madhvi. Really appreciate you taking us through the whole policy development process, and also the CPM, and lastly, how we can partake in the policy part. Just for a quick recap, We can notice that James took us through the whole services, the WHOIS services, the MyAfriNIC, how we can join AFRINIC, and the RPKI, the ROA, RDNS, and all. Then later, Madvi now took us through on we now having a policy around these whole services so that we can better enable a sustainable environment for most of our resource members. And I would like to reiterate again that if you have any question, please just drop by on the Q&A tab, or so we can then take up the questions and ask later at the end of the webinar. And I would like to invite Cedric. Cedric will now discuss about the services at large, mostly at large in terms of the community part and also down to the stakeholders part. So, Cedric, are you available now to join us?
Yes, thank you, Debo, and thank you, James and Madvi, for your presentation. Let me share my screen and okay, so once again, thank you. My name is Cedric. I'm the Stakeholder Development Manager Technical, and we're going to talk about services at large. So first of all, I would like to come back to this. I know that a lot of you know that we are the 5th area. We serve 55 economies. We're operating since 2005. But most important here, it's our vision. So a secure, accessible internet for sustainable digital growth in Africa, and our mission as AFRINIC to serve the African internet community by delivering efficient services in a global multi-stakeholder environment. My presentation will mostly revolve around what we call the IDP, so the AFRINIC Internet Development Programs. The reason why I showed you the vision and the mission is to connect what is coming. Most of the time, people ask us, okay, but you as an area should only be limited to internet number resources, and that's not all we are doing. We are doing way more than just internet number resources. We are also here to serve the community. Madvi also touched about the policy development, which is something very important. And now let me tell you why these IDPs, those Internet Development Program. One, because we are passionate about connecting Africa. We want Africa to be connected to the world. And we know that a lot of people, and usually when people talk about Africa, they mention the fact that Africa is way behind. So we are passionate about connecting Africa, and we want to continue raise awareness, because this also is something very important. Internet is not, or it's technology, but it's not only for techies. It should be for everybody. So we want to raise awareness. We want to build capacity regarding internet access and development across the continent. And also, we want to bridge that digital divide. That this is something very important, especially when we talk about digital transformation. And we want to provide access, we want to provide opportunities, and we really want to target not only corporation, but also individuals and all the communities across Africa. Now, what are the IDPs? Again, this is to boost the investment and in internet and the development through the AFRINIC service region. And we have 6 IDPs. So we have fellowship, we have diversity in ICT, we have the technical community development, we have the critical infrastructure development, research and collaboration, and the last one is about IGF and ICT communities. So when it comes to first fellowship, here we believe in diversity, and when we talk about diversity, we are not here talking about the second part, but it's more diversity in terms of our region. We want all the region to be targeted, everybody to be able to participate to the progress of the internet ecosystem. And also we want to create opportunity for individuals from diverse background. James spoke about the members, service to members, and most of the time, we see only techies being interested into when it comes to AFRINIC and also to policies, but we want to create that diversity. We want people from diverse background when it comes to policy development, not only the techies, but also we want legal people, we want people from university. So we need to be able to create that. And our aim here is to foster a community of future leaders in the industry of internet. And when it comes to leaders, again, it's not only techies. And so far, we have been able to have 230 fellows from 50 African countries. We are still 5 countries short to touch all our countries in the region, but this is something that we are really looking forward to. The second program is diversity in ICT. And here it's more about all the people that are not always, that are underrepresented. We have an underrepresentation of women, girls, but also people with disability when it comes to ICT initiatives. Most of the time, yes, we are talking about women. Fortunately, in the past years, lots of women have joined, and we have more and more, we can see more and more women involved into ICT. But also we want to target now people with disability and make sure that all the population are targeted and that they can benefit from those initiatives. And one of our source of inspiration here is what the SDGs, so the Sustainable Development Goals, sorry, of United Nations, sorry, the number 5 and number 9 that call for gender equality and the use of enabling technologies. So those are our inspirations. So the UN nations, SDGs 5 and 9. And we want to leverage the potential of every individuals to access, use, and develop internet. We want to create a more equitable, and prosperous society, again, to be able to be as inclusive as possible. And also our aim here is to advocate for greater diversity development across the continent. The next one, the Technical Community Development Program. Here we want to build technical communities. We think that those technical communities are the key to advance the development of internet in Africa. Most of the time, we are relying a lot on corporations to build internet, and sometimes, you know, you have those competitions. Now, our aim here is to work with countries to build communities, make sure that people can come, be part of that global community where they can share, where they can work together, where they can challenge each other, and make sure that, you know, countries have a good capacity to make sure that we advance internet in Africa. The next one, which is the Critical Infrastructure Development Program. Here, when we talk about critical infrastructure, we are looking at any infrastructure that, if affected, will will greatly impact internet. And what we do here is that we support the critical internet infrastructure across the continent, no restriction. And the next thing that we will do is to help them to accelerate universal and affordable access to the internet, how we can work with them. One example is the Internet Exchange Point. We are working a lot with Internet Exchange Point because we believe that this is a way for universal access and affordable access in country. We want to promote economic and social development. And again, if I go back to the example of the Internet Exchange Point, using the economic of scale, the Internet Exchange Point allowed to reduce the cost and provide a more sustainable internet. And also, the last part of this one is to strengthen and expand the internet infrastructure. And one of the challenges that we have noticed in Africa is that when it comes to some of the critical infrastructure, there are initiative of the internet community or the technical community, meaning that they don't always have the necessary support. So then we will be able to come and provide support, not only financially, but also with our skills, advice, and build capacity whenever it's needed. The next one is research and collaboration program. And this one is mainly for academics, but any academic institution. So not only the universities, but also the research and education network. And we want to work closely with those educational institutions and to conduct any cutting-edge technology, technical and policy-based research. Because what we want to do, it's not only to support them in the technical field, but also to get them to also join that part, which is policy development, and make sure that they are part of it. And we want to support their research that empowers network operator and end users. There is a lot of development that are happening at university level, but sometimes they don't have the means and they don't have the network to be able to promote and to showcase what they are doing. So we will support them. And again, not only with financial support when we can, but also with our expertise. And so we provide sponsorship, we provide skills development, a strategic partnership, and all this is to support research and education communities on the continent. The last one, but not the least, is Internet Governance and ICT Initiative Development Program. And this one is really to ensure the continued growth and stability of the internet in Africa. A very important part of internet development in Africa, something that has really allowed for internet to flower in many countries, was the initiative of the IGF, so the Internet Governance Forum. And this is an opportunity where all the stakeholders will come together, discuss. So supporting those IGF and ICT initiative is really an opportunity to harness skills and experience from our diverse stakeholders when it comes to topics related to internet governance. And we want to empower them so they can participate to the global internet governance discussion. And what we do here is to really support national, regional IGF and any other internet-related initiative. And we want to create opportunities for them so they can be included in the global dialogue between the stakeholders. And again, when it's not only financial support, but it's also our expertise. And we have actually supported multiple school of IGF. When we come, we educate people about anything related to internet number resources for them to really understand this is internet, this is the number resources, this is why you need to understand them, and this is what it takes for you to be part of the discussion. And also that's an opportunity for us to break down the technical discussion into something more chewable for non-technical people. I will end by saying that we are really committed to develop internet in Africa, and we really welcome anybody who wants to collaborate with us and so around the world, because it takes a global effort. It takes everybody to achieve a sustainable and accessible internet for all. And again, we are open to partnership and financial support from any individual or group that shares our mission. So thank you very much. Back to you, Debo.
Thank you very much, Cedric. I really appreciate you taking us through that whole channel of the services in terms of the internet development in Africa and some of the activities we've been doing towards that. Also, just to do a final recap, like I mentioned the other time, how James took us through the whole core services that we have, and Madvi taking us through the whole policy, then topping it up is from Cedric, telling us about the initiatives that we've been doing around the internet development in Africa. So one of the questions that I can see in the Q&A section, Jack also gave you ask you a direct question saying that in regards to your presentation, how do you support research and development? Yeah, Cedric.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Oh, okay. So Jack Utseno is asking that regarding to your presentation, how do you support research and development?
Oh, for support to research and development, it will depend. So most of the time, what we do is a partnership with academic institutions or any institution that is working into that field, and then it will depend on what they want to achieve. So it can be financial support. It can be also using the network of AFRINIC to be able to reach out to different stakeholders. Can be government, it can be network operator, it can be corporate that can be interested into that. So it's really depends on what you want to achieve.
Okay, I see. There's another question from Mana Amid. He said, how about the training in AI initiatives and developing new technologies? So he also mentioned that is there a way we can involve all countries in the internet governance decision instead of just Europe and US only regarding AI and initiatives and other developing technology? Cedric, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry, I had a small disconnection. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so I mentioned that said Manahami said he wants to know about the training in AI initiatives and developing new technology. So the whole question is about how do we now involve other countries around the world instead of just focusing on Europe and US managing these whole policies around AI initiatives and new technology.
Yes. So again, this is what we want to do is to create opportunities. So we want people to be able to. We want to raise awareness. We want to build capacity, depending on how and depending on the audience. It can be through several means. It can be organizing webinar like this one, or creating a community or organizing a community to see how we can raise awareness, make sure that we have people there that are well aware of those technologies. So when it comes to AI or any new initiatives, and then make sure that they are well versed into that. And then again, it will be use the opportunity that we have as AFRINIC to be part of some of the forums and attend those forums. And when we can also bring people along and see how we can make sure that they are really included in this. And maybe when I say include, it's not only about traveling, but it also to be part of those working group. And one of the initiatives that we have is the Open Standard Initiative Working Group, where our aim is to make sure that anybody working on open standards are part of that working group. And we want to make sure that bring people and discuss. Thank you.
I see. Thank you very much, Cedric. I will have a couple of questions that I need to throw out to James. James, you spoke about IPv4 addresses, and you also mentioned that we have about 1.1 million, and that's /32 left. So how is AFRINIC handling these critical resources to ensure smooth transition to V6? That's James, yeah.
Thank you, Adebowale, for the question. And it's true, the exhaustion is real. IPv4 exhaustion is real. As we speak, it's AFRINIC and EPINIC who still have IP available in their pools. Other RIRs have actually depleted, and actually they're only giving out returns as soon as they have them. So we can't think that is something that is far away from us, but it's a reality so far. As for AFRINIC, we do have initiatives that we're looking into. First, I'll talk about the policy aspect where MADV touched mostly. We do have policies that are also there to facilitate the transition into IPv6. First and foremost, the current IPv4 policy actually slowed down the consumption of IPv4 to limit it to only up to /22 to enable new operators who are coming in to be able to have a particular pool that they can start with in V4 before transitioning to V6. But also on the IPv6 aspect, there's also another policy that encourages members to roll out IPv6 within 12 months on their side. So to ensure that the adoption is happening on time, at least before we completely exhaust V4. In addition, we do also have a lot of trainings in terms of online e-learning content on IPv6, covering different aspects, starting from IPv6 planning, deployment, and deployment of services. So I think, Susan, you can add the link for the e-learning platform. This is one of those initiatives actually that we are doing. Apart from that, we also have a help desk which members can contact, and they'll get a plan that will help them, that will facilitate their journey to IPv6 adoption. The third aspect is also where we plan deployathon. These are sessions where we conduct hands-on sessions with pool of members to ensure that we take them through a journey to IPv6 readiness and complete adoption. So we do have mechanism, and all these things, mostly the V6 help desk, that is completely at no extra cost. The e-learning material, no extra cost. To cap it off, we also have the certification for IPv6. Those who are ready, they can sit for either the silver and gold exams and get IPv6 certified. So we do have those initiatives across the board that are ensuring that we do have a drive towards IPv6 adoption across the region. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much, James, for that. I would like to throw in another question to MADV regarding the AFRINIC support for around policymakers and LEAs in devising well-informed policies aimed to better internet governance in Africa. So the question is, how does AFRINIC support policymakers in devising well-informed policies aimed at better internet governance on the continent?
Thank you, Debo, for the question. In fact, so the AFRINIC support in regard to the policy development of resource policies, it's a bit framed by the policy development process. So yes, we do ensure that the liaison, we have 2 policy liaisons. So we work together with the co-chairs when policy proposals are received, they're identified and put up on the website. There's also something that AFRINIC does, is the impact assessments. Okay, so in this, well, unfortunately, we haven't been doing it. There has been an evolution in how we do the impact assessments, let's say. And so if right now there's a policy proposal that already highlights, that there is, it can create conflict with another section of the manual. So these are the areas where AFRINIC, through the impact assessment, can already make it known to the authors so that they can amend the text. Because once the policy, if it goes through the process and then is at ratification stage or at implementation stage, we need to avoid surprises there. Okay, so the impact assessment takes care of that. What we also do is for the real issues, something that can lead to an evolution of the policies, so that the operators can benefit from the resources. One example was the ASNs, because there was a need to multi-home or planning to be multi-homed in the previous policies. But when the postmasters were receiving requests that were not compliant, so therefore they had to refuse those ASN requests. When those situations were put in the policy implementation experience report, the authors, someone in the community could take that up as a problem statement and then craft a proposal to address that. And then afterwards, I think, while for that specific policy, the ASN requests the ASNs that were being given to the operators, the numbers increased. Okay, yes. So that's in regard to the resource policies. Okay, we aim to do more. Okay, and especially in terms of the problem statements, if we've seen them, instead of waiting for a public policy meeting, try and send it out before. Okay, but then for the LEAs, I think Cedric may be able to answer that. Okay, because it's not related to my expertise.
Okay. Oh, Cedric, do you mind just delving into that aspect so we can have more insight in that in the aspect of LEAs?
Yes, thank you very much. So when it comes to LEAs, we are trying to, as much as possible, to involve them into anything related to Internet Governance Forum, trying to get them involved and encourage countries or region to get them, to include them in the discussion. But also, whenever possible, we go at a higher level. We will go to the Africa Telecommunication Union or International Telecom Union, so ATU, ITU, and also see if we can have them involved into those discussions. So we currently work with groups like SADC or also ECOWAS, and try to make sure that we create that environment where LEAs can find, can get educate when it comes to anything related to internet number resources and the discussions that comes with it.
So sorry for our attendees. The LEAs we're talking about is the law enforcement agencies. So that's what we just make it a short form, LEA. So it's mostly law enforcement agencies. So one more question for you, Cedric. Do you mind elaborating on a bit on the root server copy project and how this is contributing to the betterment of the internet in the region?
Thank you very much for the question, Debo. So the root server program comes under the support to critical internet infrastructure. So what we do is that we have a program that we call the AFRICP, so Africa Root Server Copy Program. And what we do is this: we we will partner with root server operator. And for those who are not really aware, when it comes to internet and DNS resolution, a very important component of internet is the root server. So whenever you type, for instance, www.afrinic.net, it is an IP address behind, and what will happen is that your web browser will talk to a DNS server, and that DNS server will return that IP address. But to be able to return that IP address, they will talk to what is called a root server. And unfortunately, it's not possible to have the original root server, so we will have copies, and those copies will now be deployed in every country. And the aim of this program is to make sure that we support the deployment of as much copy of root server as possible in our region. So it will depend, it can be through financial support, it can be through our expertise, through admin contact and everything. And also another one that I can talk about also that we have, which is called the AFDSP. It is the Africa Domain Secondary Program. And this one is mainly toward CCTLD. So what we do here is to provide for free secondary to any CCTLD who is interested. So they can use AFRINIC infrastructure as a backup for their CCTLD. And currently we are working with more than close to 45 to 50 CCTLD of first and second level in Africa, supporting them and providing them that support for free. And all this is really toward a more sustainable infrastructure in Africa, internet in Africa. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to just take one last question for James. There's this question from Emmanuel Guguma. He said, what is the impact on internet services for those who have not yet certified their prefixes and invalid ROAs?
All right, thank you. Thank you, Emmanuel, for the question. First and foremost, let me clarify one thing. If one has not certified their prefixes, then they will not end up having an invalid ROA in the aspect that, first and foremost, once the prefixes are certified, that's when a ROA can be created. But if your announcement is different from that ROA, then that one becomes invalid. So if it is vice versa, if you have not certified, there will not be an invalid ROA. However, if you have certified, so that particular traffic that don't have ROA or the prefixes are not certified, that would be categorized as unknown, and most of the operators accept traffic that is categorized as unknown. Meanwhile, the traffic that is categorized as invalid is the one whereby there is a ROA that is created showing AS number and the prefix. And then there is a route that does not match. The route has a different, perhaps either a different origin, which is the ASN for a particular prefix. For this, let's say the same prefix, then there's a difference between what the ROA is telling the system and what is actually in BGP. So that would be the invalid. But then if there is no ROA and the route is in BGP, that would be categorized as unknown and it would be accepted. Right now, for any invalid whereby there is a difference between the ROA and the routing, majority of the operators filter that, but there is also a possibility that some are still monitoring the progress and probably they are treating it in a different way.
Okay, thank you very much, James. Thank you very much, all my panelists, James, Matt, B, and Cedric. We really appreciate your time today. And also to all our attendees, we really appreciate you for coming out here to have a basic understanding of all our services and our initiatives in developing the internet in Africa. So I would use this opportunity to just have one announcement regarding that The French version of today's webinar will be held by on 22nd of February. That's next week, Thursday. So we have the French version. So we encourage some of our colleagues to join the upcoming webinar on Thursday, 22nd of February, which is just same as today's webinar. So, and thank you once again. Really appreciate. Thank you very much, and have a blessed day.